In late 1950, on the Korean Peninsula, a battle unfolded that never fully entered the official record. It took place during the early months of the Korean War, in a moment when front lines were unstable and command structures were strained. Units were deployed under incomplete information and impossible timelines. What followed was a collapse that command would later try to erase. By the summer of 1950, the Korean Peninsula had become the center of a rapidly escalating conflict. The division between North and South Korea, hardened by ideology and foreign influence, had turned into open war. United Nations forces, led primarily by the United States, were rushed into the region with limited preparation. Many of these units were under strength. Some were poorly equipped. Most had no experience with the terrain they were about to fight in. The peninsula itself shaped every decision. Narrow roads, steep ridgelines, villages scattered between rivers and hills. Visibility was limited. Maps were outdated. Intelligence was often based on assumptions rather than confirmed observation. Commanders were under pressure to move fast. Speed mattered more than certainty. In early autumn, as UN forces pushed northward, orders were issued to secure key routes believed to be lightly defended. Reports suggested that opposing forces were retreating. Intercepts indicated disorganization. The situation appeared favorable. At higher levels, optimism replaced caution. One particular sector, positioned along a critical valley corridor, was assigned to a composite force made up of infantry and limited artillery support. The mission was simple on paper. Advance. Hold ground. Prevent enemy movement through the corridor. The timetable was strict. Delays were discouraged. However, the reality on the ground differed sharply from briefings. Patrols encountered signs of enemy presence that did not align with intelligence reports. Tracks abandoned equipment. Fresh fighting positions. These indicators were noted in field logs but failed to alter the overall plan. Requests for clarification were routed upward. Responses were delayed or vague. Communication infrastructure was fragile. Radios failed in the cold nights. Wire lines were cut by movement and shelling. Units often operated with partial awareness of adjacent formations. Command believed control was intact. It was not. As positions were established, soldiers dug in along exposed slopes and road junctions. Defensive depth was minimal. Reserves were limited. Supply convoys struggled to reach forward elements. Ammunition and rations were rationed carefully. Despite these warning signs, the order remained unchanged. Hold the corridor. Advance no further. Do not withdraw. What command did not acknowledge was that enemy forces had not retreated. They had repositioned. They observed silently. They waited. By the time the first signs of encirclement appeared, the assumptions made days earlier could no longer be corrected. The beginning of the disaster was already behind them. The first contact came without warning. Small arms fire echoed from the hills before dawn. It was brief. Probing. Then silence. Reports were sent. The response from command was cautious but dismissive. Local harassment was expected. No change in posture was authorized. Over the next 48 hours, pressure increased. Mortar rounds landed with growing accuracy. Supply routes were targeted. Vehicles burned along narrow roads, blocking movement. Units began to lose contact with one another. Maps no longer reflected reality. Requests for reinforcement were submitted repeatedly. Each time, the answer was delayed. Higher command was focused elsewhere. Larger operations demanded attention. This sector was considered secondary. Its stability was assumed. That assumption collapsed on the third night. Enemy forces moved in coordinated waves, using the terrain to remain unseen until the last moment. Forward positions were struck simultaneously. Defensive lines fractured. Communication failed almost immediately. Officers attempted to regroup units manually, moving through darkness under fire. Artillery support was requested but could not be effectively coordinated. Observation posts were overrun or forced to withdraw. Fire missions fell short or failed to materialize at all. Ammunition stocks dwindled rapidly. By morning, the corridor was no longer controlled. It was contested. Small groups of soldiers held isolated positions, unaware of the situation beyond their immediate surroundings. Casualties mounted. Evacuation was impossible. Field commanders faced a choice: withdraw without orders, or hold positions that no longer had strategic value. Official doctrine demanded the latter. Many complied. As losses increased, reports sent upward became fragmented. Numbers were incomplete. Timelines blurred. Some transmissions never arrived. What did reach higher command was filtered. Language softened. Words like collapse were avoided. The situation was described as fluid. Behind the scenes, staff officers began to realize the scale of the failure. But acknowledgement carried consequences. Questions would be asked. Decisions would be reviewed. Responsibility would need to be assigned. Instead, the narrative shifted. The sector was reclassified. Records were consolidated. Engagements were merged with neighboring actions. Casualty figures were redistributed across dates and units. The specific battle disappeared into broader operational summaries. On the ground, survivors continued to fight and withdraw in fragments. Many were listed as missing before they were confirmed dead. Some were never recovered. By the time reinforcements arrived, the corridor was lost. The enemy had moved on. The ground was silent again. What remained was damage that could not be undone. And a decision, made far from the battlefield, to let the truth fade. The final phase unfolded without clear boundaries. There was no single moment of collapse. It happened in pieces. One position fell. Then another. Each loss isolated the next. In the narrow valley, a battalion-sized element attempted a coordinated breakout. The plan relied on synchronized movement and limited artillery cover. Neither functioned as intended. Smoke obscured visibility. Units advanced in the wrong direction. Some walked directly into enemy fire. Officers were killed early. Leadership fell to junior ranks with no situational overview. Orders were passed verbally. Often they contradicted one another. Confusion spread faster than fear. The enemy closed in methodically. High ground was used to control movement. Escape routes were cut. Medical personnel worked under fire until supplies ran out. Wounded soldiers were left behind with minimal documentation. By nightfall, resistance was fragmented. Isolated groups attempted to hide, withdraw, or surrender. Many never made it out. Others reached friendly lines days later, exhausted and silent. The losses were severe. But the exact numbers were never fully recorded in one place. Some units reported 50% casualties. Others ceased reporting entirely. Equipment losses were extensive. Entire formations were rendered combat ineffective. At higher command levels, emergency meetings took place. The priority was containment. Prevent panic. Maintain the appearance of control. The battle was reframed as a delayed withdrawal. The word defeat was avoided. Official communiques mentioned heavy fighting but no specific failure. Maps were redrawn. Timelines adjusted. The corridor was no longer referenced by name. Internally, after-action reports acknowledged errors. Poor intelligence. Overextension. Inadequate support. But these documents were classified. Circulation was limited. Lessons were absorbed quietly, without public acknowledgement. For the soldiers who survived, the end came not with recognition but with reassignment. They were moved to other units, other fronts. Their experience became background noise in a larger war. The ground where the battle occurred was reclaimed by weather and time. Equipment rusted. Trenches collapsed. Graves, many unmarked, remained. The climax of the story did not end with an explosion or a decisive order. It ended with silence. The fighting ended without ceremony. No clear line marked the conclusion. No signal announced the end. Reports slowed, then stopped. Names appeared on separate lists. Killed. Missing. Unconfirmed. Some entries were never revised. Others were absorbed into later summaries. The details blurred. The valley remained where it was. The roads stayed narrow and quiet. Weather erased signs of movement. Equipment was left behind. Weapons rusted. Trenches collapsed into the soil. No marker was placed. No official name endured. The location faded from maps. Command shifted its focus. New objectives replaced old failures. Attention moved north and south. Internally, the battle existed. In memoranda. In classified assessments. Errors were noted in controlled language. Intelligence gaps. Overextension. Delayed response. But those documents stayed closed. They were not discussed publicly. They were not taught widely. For the survivors, there was no ending. They were reassigned. They were redistributed. Some never spoke of the valley again. Others tried. Their accounts did not align with the official version. Over time, silence became easier. Memories aged. Witnesses disappeared. The numbers in the records remained incomplete. The losses were spread across time. Across units. Across pages. The battle was not erased. It was diluted. Broken into fragments. Hidden inside larger operations. Reduced to footnotes. The place itself offered no explanation. Only terrain. Only emptiness. What happened there did not vanish. It simply lost its shape. And when shape is lost, memory follows. The war moved on. History turned the page. The valley did not. Thank you for watching. New historical stories are published regularly.